right, my friends, J.R. Dukes at your service. Appreciate everybody joining me today. We just hit the buttons to make everything go live. So give me 1 second as we check and make sure everything is working the way it should work. If you haven't done so already, please take a moment and go ahead and join our... Okay, let's make sure everything's working right. Go ahead, if you haven't done so already, introduce yourself. Go ahead, let us know who you are, where you're calling, or where you're coming in from. And by the way, today is an open mic night, so you are going to be able... All right, looks like everything is coming online now, finally. All right, so you're going to be able to join live if you'd like. You can call in by clicking the link that I'm going to put in the chat, or you can join by video. All you have to do is just click the link, and magically you'll start showing up right here. Hello to Facebook, and looks like obviously we're good on YouTube, Twitch, and X platform. Looks good. Welcome, everybody. All right, everybody's starting to pile in now, so good. By the way, if you are on the Facebook platform, they're starting to change some of their rules on the live stream. If you wouldn't mind, make sure, if you haven't done so already, that you click follow on the Facebook platform if that is the primary way that you receive content when I go live. Today, we're going to be talking about a subject I really haven't heard many people, if any, talk about, and that is concerning President Joe Biden and his seemingly many health issues. Obviously, he's got some kind of health issue, impairment, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to talk about it. I have some interesting takes that I think you might find interesting pertaining to what I think is going on. I've done some research on it. I have some interesting videos for us to watch pertaining to this. And I think this is something that we need to talk about. Obviously, he's running for president again. You have a man at 81 years of age running for another 4 years in office. By my math, he would be 86 years of age when his second term, if he was to win re-election, would begin. And let's hope that that does not become a reality. Again, if you want to join me live, feel free to do so. Let me make sure that I got that link briefly in the chat. All you have to do is click on the link. If you don't want to be on camera, no problem. You can simply call in. When you click the link, you'll be connected to my little platform right here and get prepared to go live with your questions. So anyway, the link is there for everybody to use. Let's go ahead and let's start diving into what I want to talk about today. Again, Joe Biden and his health. We are all too familiar, unfortunately, with what is going on. And we need to talk about it. This guy is running for president yet again, and it's very concerning to me. So let's go ahead and take a look at this first video, and then we're going to talk about it. This is just a compilation of just videos that have been kind of all put together from different press conferences, different conversations, President Joe Biden.
Here's what drives the driver in the states that are affected.
Quick little interjection here, quick commentary. If you notice, as you're watching this video, I want you to keep in mind that occasionally President Trump will confuse a name or confuse a city or whatever, but it is a completely different subject, it's a completely different reality when you listen to what President Joe Biden is saying or not saying. So I just want to make sure we're clear on the differences there, because I want to take a look at someone who is clearly in cognitive decline versus someone who's just messing up facts or having an issue with recall. The difference is compelling. So
here's what you can do, the drivers. For two reasons. One, it's an impact the decades are making, because inaction was there was inaction with the Department of from Charlotte, another line going from in Florida down to Tampa. The best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to anyway, the idea that and Joan Shingang, I'm going to pronounce right, Shanga. But there's, there to be, beginning this effort, and I want you to know that I want to thank you as well for. But the nature, not America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him. Look.
I want to say one more thing. I want to be very clear. Although I am definitely not a supporter of President Joe Biden, it is definitely not my intention at any point to make fun of anybody that is suffering because they have a disease or because they're elderly. It's simply my intention to point out the reality, at least the reality as I see it. And as I always say on my program, then you can make up your own mind as to whether or not you agree with me or not. But I'm of the firm opinion that the Democrats forcing Joe Biden to essentially run for another term, or at least not stop him from running for another term, in my opinion, is nothing but elder abuse. When you get right down to it, his wife should step up and say something to him and point out the reality of his decline. This is not good for our country. It's not safe for our country. We need a strong leader, whoever that leader is. It needs to be somebody in control of their faculties. It's just that simple. It doesn't even matter necessarily if it's Democrat or Republican. My point is, this is the person that represents the United States of America, and they have to be on their A game. And to be acting like this on the world stage is appalling and unacceptable in my estimation.
A solid meeting with the Los Angeles and what am I doing here? From the
pretty serious. And as we have this discussion, I would like you to put in the comments, if you'd be so kind, what do you think is going on with him? I want to make an ongoing list of exactly what we observe with our own eyes. Now, listen, the Democrats, especially today, they'll tell you straight to your face that everything we're looking at is a deep fake, or it's some kind of manufactured AI nonsense, or they will tell us people are just committing fraud, felony type fraud, if you would. And it's just absurd. I made a video earlier today where I made the point. It's kind of like that expression where the dog is peeing on your leg and people are trying to tell you it's raining. And that's kind of exactly what's going on right now. In a few minutes, I'm going to take a deep dive with the help of some tools I found online, and we're going to kind of go through exactly what I think President Biden is suffering from, and then you can tell me if you agree or disagree with me. And yes, Pamela, I agree. He definitely needs help. It is a sad situation, and yeah, FJB, I agree. It is a dementia type of situation. I think that's pretty well clear for everybody to see, but I want to tell you exactly what type of dementia I think is going on. So clearly we know today that he is exhibiting symptoms of freezing like a statue. I also want to show you this clip. This was not taken too long ago, but let's take a quick peek at this and look at the anger this man has. Look how fast he is to provoke himself to some type of anger. So let's take a look at this here.
How is your role as vice president in charge of policy in Ukraine and your son's job in Ukraine? How is that not a conflict of interest?
It's not a conflict of interest. There's been no indication of any conflict of interest from Ukraine or anywhere else. Period. I'm not gonna respond to that. Let's focus on the problem. Focus on this man, what he's doing, that no president has ever done. No president. Respond to that. Let's focus on the problem. Focus on this man, what he's doing, that no president has ever done. No president.
I think that pretty well sums it up. Now, here's one. I think this is the one where he's on stage. Just take a peek at this real quick. Yeah, this was from his want to turn the volume down purposely on this because I don't want to get any kind of YouTube violation over the music. But you can see right here, I believe I took this directly off of X platform. This was the guy that originally came up with the video. At any rate, you can see President Obama leading Joe away, taking him by the hand, and then he changes his hand and puts it on his back, kind of like they're best buds. I am sure President Biden is not too happy about this situation. But again, I mean, how much more evidence do we need to see? Now, the music's turned off on this, obviously, again, for copyright, but this is the president at this, whatever it was. And if you notice, this is also broadcast on GBN. So this is from overseas in the United Kingdom, Great Britain. And you can see Joe Biden right there in the center. You see Vice President Kamala Harris to his right, and then I guess they call him the second gentleman beside her. And look, everybody else is moving their body. They're enjoying the music. You got Joe standing there like a statue. Now, just look at his mannerisms and the way he moves his hand, the way just awkwardly up to his face. I guess if I have to be positive about it, he smiles there during some part of the video. So I think that's a plus. But it's just so odd, so awkward. It is definitely uncomfortable. I think that's pretty clear. All right, let's switch over. I want to take a look at this recent video. This involves President Biden actually. Let me pull this up real quick and we'll take a look at it. Yeah, this is when he met Pope Francis. And as you probably know, the president is Catholic, and I know that he holds the Pope near and dear to his heart, so to speak. But at the same time, well, let's take a look at it and let's see how awkward this looks to you.
Welcome to the evening edit. Joining us now from House Intelligence and House Foreign Affairs, Congressman French Hill. Congressman, welcome to the show. Let's get right at it. Show the new video coming in of this bizarre moment. His Holiness Pope Francis looking surprised, visibly uncomfortable as Joe Biden goes in close and rubs his forehead with a leader of 1.4 billion Catholics worldwide. But Congressman, the Biden team is furious about coverage of Biden's performance at the G7 in Italy. The Biden White House is basically saying everybody should deny what everyone could see on video. Biden appearing frail and confused. Congressman, this is hitting the 2024 race. It affects the future.
Now, in all fairness, I have to point out, you can see in the middle of your screen, President Biden, right through the middle of your screen. He is talking to someone else that has a parachute. I guess it's some military parachute individual. So there is a little bit of context that we need to bring to this particular video. And trust me, I'm really reaching to put the most positive spin on this particular situation involving President Biden. However, the group as a whole during this meeting are doing something else. And again, it's just another symptom of what's going on with President Biden, that he is so easily led off in another direction.
Future of America. Your take on this, what you're seeing.
Well, Liz, it's great to be with you today. And of course, this is just more shocking Joe Biden video that reinforces why Americans have him at the lowest possible approval rating. We've gone from coming up behind young ladies to now.
Look at that right there. You got the president of the United States looking like a feeble, sick old man, bent over at the waist, touching head to head. These are two men. These are two men putting their foreheads together. What an odd situation. They have reported all over the media today that the Pope looked uncomfortable. And I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that's putting it mildly. I'm sure he felt very odd. Listen, as a straight man myself, if another man put his forehead to my forehead, I would not be very happy about it. And I can assure you it wouldn't last very long. I don't care what the individual's position in life is. Very awkward, very uncomfortable. I think I have another video that is going to show this from a different angle, and you can see a little more context. Everybody in the room was extremely uncomfortable.
Butting heads with the Pope. I guess he's begging for absolution for all his failures as president. But in any event, he's doddering on the world stage when the world is burning. We need strong executive leadership in conjunction with the Congress. And that's why I'm so hopeful that we are going to have the voters grow our majority in the House, let us have a Republican majority in the Senate, and bring President Trump back to the White House.
You know, what is really going on behind the scenes with this president? Because, you know, the British and Italian press are reporting foreign diplomats and their aides are, quote, raising new doubts about Biden's health after what they witnessed at the G7. They're saying, reporting, quote, it's the worst Biden has ever been. It's embarrassing. He appeared to be losing focus and concentration at meetings. So what you're in DC, what really is the state of this president? Because perceptions matter. This matters for America.
Well, when you're on the globe stage, you need to project authority, power, and leadership. And Joe Biden is not projecting any of those three things. They've agreed to this lackluster arrangement to use immobilized Russian assets to benefit Ukraine, when Congress gave Joe Biden the authority to seize those Russian assets, put them in a trust fund for the benefit of Ukraine, and lead Europe by encouraging those countries to do precisely the same thing. And yet he's come home without that deal. It's very concerning to me. We need American leadership, and Joe Biden is not expressing it on the world stage.
You know, Axios headlined its story about the summit saying, quote, world losers gather at the G7, saying the majority, Biden, Justin Trudeau, Francis Macron, German Chancellor Scholz, approval ratings historically low, below 40%.
All right, that's all I want to talk about on that particular video. Now, again, I think it's worth repeating. It is important for us all and for everybody that's viewing this right now to understand that we all age if we live long enough, and we're all going to die of some type of disease process if we're not killed some way or another in the meantime. And I take no joy in bringing this video, no doubt about it. I am definitely not a Joe Biden supporter. However, I am sympathetic to the situation that he's in the fact that, or I should say, in as much that we all age, and a man his age, and remember, it's not about age. In my mind, it's about capacity. Clearly, this man is suffering. He's in decline. He does not have the acumen to do what the president of the United States needs to do. Can you imagine that this man has his finger on the nuclear button? That is not something that we should take at face value. This is a very serious matter. And what I think is even more serious is the way that the legacy media, the mainstream press, if you will, is simply turning a blind eye to this situation. They're lying to you. They're lying to me. They're lying to all of us. They're lying to Joe Biden about his ability. Now, I had someone mention to me not long ago, well, what happened back at the State of the Union? Because let's be honest about this. We had a lot of this type stuff building up, and we had some serious doubts about President Biden. Boom, you had him give the State of the Union address this last January. And I'm just telling you, although I didn't agree with much of anything that he had to say, he was fired up. He was lucid. He gave a good performance as far as being there in the flesh is concerned and being able to respond. But I'm telling you, folks, they had him jacked up on something. It's just that simple. That's going to be another video I'm going to make. There are things like Provigil. It's called Monvisual, I believe, is the generic name for it. Obviously, there's Ritalin. There's other stimulants like that that can help improve concentration, function, especially if you get enough rest and they give you a couple Provigil pills in the morning or something along these lines. He probably could pull it off. I'm guessing that his disease is probably in the beginning stages. However, it is very pronounced, it's very serious, and it is only going to get worse. So that is the point that I'm trying to make today. Now, let's take another look at this video from another angle, and shortly we're going to start diving into all the criteria that I see going on with the president. So here's another angle of his meeting with the Pope. So let's just watch this briefly, and then let's get some comments on this here. Biden embraces the Pope. It's a different angle, as you can tell. Now look at the room. Look at everybody's face. Do you see I believe that's the Italian prime minister. If I'm wrong, someone please correct me. And yeah, FJB, you're right. Methamphetamines, I believe that's also known as, it's not Ritalin. I'm thinking of the other stuff. Starts with an A, I think. It's similar in the fact that it's a stimulant, and they could definitely jack him up on that. I don't have any doubt about that. But look at the face of the Italian prime minister right here in the middle of your screen, and let me know what you think about her reaction, not to mention everybody else's reaction in the room. Joe, one more time. Okay, here he goes. He's going in. And look at the prime minister's face right there. What? Oh, look, I'm just saying it's very uncomfortable. Am I blowing that out of proportion? I mean, I think that's pretty self-evident. Here's a video of the skydiving moment, and this is where the Italian prime minister again has to come to the rescue of Joe Biden. Again, it's funny, but it's not really funny, but we're going to take a peek at it anyway. So here we go. Biden appears to wander off at G7 summit. There he goes. Now again, if you notice on the extreme right of your screen, there is a paratrooper or some kind of military personnel. I'm guessing this is France, so it's probably a French soldier of some sort. And he has left the group and he is talking with the soldier. If you pictured it just as that, it's probably okay. But you know as well as I do that in a social setting, in a G7 meeting, you can't just peel yourself off from the group and start de facto wandering. I mean, there's just something wrong about this. There is some context here, admittedly, but it's just odd. Take a look at the prime minister here. Here she goes. She's going to redirect him. There we go. What an embarrassment. Mr. President, we need you to take a picture with us. Thank you, sir. Let me put on my sunglasses, although nobody else has their sunglasses on. It's just very uncomfortable. Very odd. Again, this is on a world stage. He's given a thumbs up. You know what? The more I look at this, they say he was talking to this paratrooper on the right-hand side of your screen, but the more I look at this even closer, it doesn't look like he's talking to that paratrooper. It looks like he's doing something else. He's giving the thumbs up. That paratrooper's not making eye contact with the president, with President Biden. Am I wrong about that? Let's take a look at that about 3 or 4 seconds back. Watch him go up with this. There he is. He's got his thumb up. Okay. Let's just watch 5 seconds of this. Look at that. Thumb goes up. He's not being acknowledged by that paratrooper. I'm hoping there was someone else beyond that paratrooper he was talking to. What an odd situation. How embarrassing. Am I wrong? Take a look at the way he's putting on his glasses. It's slow. Look at his right hand, the way it's held. This is not normal, ladies and gentlemen. This is not normal. This is indicative of some type of disease process. Just odd how no one will talk about this. It's like it's somewhat of a taboo. And then at the other side of this situation, we have CNN, MSNBC. We have a lot of these liberal outlets, and you know what? It's okay if they want to be liberal and they want to put their Pacific spin on stuff. I don't have a problem with that. God bless you, but don't lie to the American people about what's going on with President Joe Biden. This man has a serious problem. Again, this is abuse. Agree or disagree? Let me know. I really want to know what your comment is. And here's something else I want you to get ready for. We've talked about how he looks like a statue. We know he freezes, gets confused. We have this list going on. What other symptom do you notice that I haven't mentioned? Please put it in the comments for me and let me know. Let's take a look at this next video. This is a recent video. I think it's from today. Let's take a quick peek at this and we will talk about it.
Former President Bill Clinton and former almost President Hillary Clinton for a high dollar fundraiser in McLean, Virginia, a wealthy suburb of D.C.
Again, this is a little bit more of a blow up of this fundraiser in California where they were pocketing some quick money. You see former President Obama on the right hand side of your screen. I believe that's Jimmy Fallon on the left hand side of your screen. And you see Barack Obama reaching out to physically take President Biden's hand because Biden froze up like a statue. I think that President Obama regrets doing this because, again, we're all sitting here talking about it, but I digress. Let's take a look at it.
See, the cash keeps rolling in, even though critics keep accusing President Biden of freezing up. That is something White House officials say is not actually happening. They claim that media is being manipulated.
I think you all have.
This is what we talked about earlier. You have the John Claire, whatever her name is, the press secretary for the White House, directly telling us today and on other occasions that these are deep fakes, that this is fraud being perpetrated on the American public. They honestly believe that you and I are that stupid.
Have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation.
Of course, it's always the right-wing media that's at fault. It's never their fault. It's always someone else's fault. Isn't that correct, John Claire?
During the briefing yesterday, though, she referred to cheap fakes and also deep fakes while dismissing these clips. But there's an important difference. A deep fake is if somebody is using AI or some other software to change the things that President Biden is doing or saying. A cheap fake is just if a clip is cut shorter than they want or from an angle that they don't like. Both of them are the same, though, in that they are both being used as terms to scapegoat, as this White House just does not want people to think that the things they see on social media are as they appear. Back to you.
That's one thing I like about Peter Doocy. I don't know if y'all watch much Fox News or on and off, but Peter Doocy here, he really gives them a work over. Remember, President Biden, I believe it's been 2 years now, maybe a little bit longer, he called Peter Doocy that he said something about he's an ignorant SOB. What a great thing to be called, right?
Oh, yeah, the most interesting spin I can imagine.
And by the way, it wasn't just SOB. I think you understand what I'm talking about.
Peter, what percentage of the room was buying that yesterday? The whole it's a fake and manipulated.
Well, probably a majority just because of the makeup of the room, but also there is something to the fact that a lot of these clips are lacking context. That doesn't mean that the things people see are not happening. Like you see something, these clips are not being manipulated.
They're not moving.
With AI. But
Here's the Easter Bunny.
There are
Oh yeah, remember the Easter Bunny?
Context. The thing is, every video that you see on the internet is in some way edited or clipped.
Sure.
Unless you're rewatching an entire live stream of something played back from start to finish, everything is cut at some point. And White House officials just want the clips to be way longer so that people can see way more context.
Well, and Peter, yesterday, I think KJP brought up where at the Juneteenth celebration last week, where everybody was dancing, feeling the music, and Joe Biden was there like a statue. And she said yesterday, I didn't know that not dancing was a health issue.
Again,
these people think you're stupid. They think I'm stupid. It's really just that simple. And I am just somewhat surprised, maybe I shouldn't be so surprised, that people are not calling them out on this. We all know what's going on. Even if you're a Joe Biden supporter, fine. Support Joe Biden. If that's what you want to do, fine. But don't be lying to people. We can clearly see what's going on.
probably depends on the context. If I walked into the briefing room today when she's talking and I started dancing, people would probably say Peter Doocy has mental illness.
Well, they
So
would
it's
be
just
right.
context is everything. Yeah.
Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah.
So a couple things here. First of all, I don't know why KJP needed the binder to read off her confidence of the president. It was a statement that was carefully crafted.
The reality is the press conferences that this John Pierre Claire, whatever her name is, these conferences are a joke. Her defense of the president stretches credulity more and more every conference that we come across. I mean, really, it's just that simple. And the entire world is looking at exactly what's going on. And it used to be funny, but folks, it's not really as funny anymore because it's extremely serious. The president of the United States is really the police of the entire world. The peace of the world depends upon the president of the United States. Make no mistake about how powerful the United States is and how powerful the office of the president of the United States is. And folks, we have to get this right, and we have to make sure we call it out for what it is. And it's, listen, it's to the point where it's not funny anymore. It's extremely concerning. It is of the utmost importance. And I want you to take a look at this. Here's a clip from Sky News. So we're talking about Australia, down under. And let's just see what their comments are concerning what's going on with the president. And this is a brand new video from today. So let's take a quick peek at this.
Look, I've got to ask you about this because he's done it again. Joe Biden has had another dead man walking moment after appearing to...
What do you think about that, folks? Dead man walking. Isn't that insane? Pertaining to the president of the United States.
Freeze at a fundraiser before Barack Obama had to come to his rescue. This is what happened.
I guess some guy named Chris Gardner off of X was the original individual that took this cell phone video. So I want to make sure I give him credit. You can see his name on the screen there.
Daniel, we're almost out of time, but I just think it's getting sad now. I mean, this is a man who genuinely needs help, and yet they're making him go through the ringer again for another election.
Look, I agree. I don't know whether it's too late for them to replace him on the ballot. I suspect it might be. But every day you can see the contrast between Biden and Trump. Trump is going through all of these legal issues, among other things. He's doing campaigns. He's energetic. He's looking forward to the future. Contrast that to Biden. But what I will say is the debate that's happening very shortly will be very interesting to watch.
We all can't wait for that.
Yeah, the video I did earlier today, if you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out, because in that video, I'm making some of the points that they're kind of glossing over right here. They're like, oh, it's too late to replace Joe Biden. I'm becoming of the opinion that that might not actually be correct. I really believe that there is some people grinding the wheel, so to speak, thinking about what to do about Joe Biden. I think a lot of it's going to have to do with what happens in the first debate with President Donald Trump coming up very soon. I think it's like the 27th or something like that. Whatever it is, it's coming up very soon, and it's going to be something we all need to tune in and watch. But I'm sure they're going to have President Biden jacked up on meds again. They're probably going to give him a good 24-hour rest. I'm just guessing it's going to be another repeat performance that he had at the State of the Union. It's hard to judge somebody on 1 hour or 2 hours of anything. And I think that is what we should all be thinking when this first debate happens. But what my point is this: there are definitely rumors. There's definitely reports out there. Again, check out the video I did today if you are interested in the subject, and you'll see that they're talking about changing out Kamala Harris, for example, with Hillary Clinton, or even Michelle Obama, God forbid. But that's what they're talking about. And if Joe Biden continues to go down, deteriorate the way he seems to be deteriorating, they're talking about just changing out the whole ticket, or put someone like Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama at the top of the ticket. I'm not sure exactly how that would work out. However, my understanding is Kamala Harris really has no say-so. If President Biden, for example, wants to remove her off the ticket, he can do so on his own initiative. That's my understanding of the rules in the Democratic Party as far as what he can and what he can't do. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at this next video. This is Biden has undeniable issues for a president. This is coming from a neurosurgeon. So let's drill down a little bit and see what he has to say. I think this would be an interesting comment to add to the discussion. So without further ado, here we go.
Away from the US presidential election, where it's looking like we will see a repeat showdown between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And while both candidates aren't exactly scandal or problem-free, there is one main issue hanging over the head of Joe Biden set to play on voter minds come election day. That is, of course, his age and his cognitive abilities. At 81 years old, Joe Biden is the oldest sitting president in US history. If he's re-elected in November, he will be 82 years old. If he wins, he will finish his second term at 86 years old. But this is not just about a number. For years now, President Biden's cognitive health has been front and center of headlines around the world as he continues to display concerning behavior on the global stage. Whether it's losing his focus, forgetting names, dates, or his own policies, mumbling over his words, or stumbling off stage, it hasn't gone unnoticed. A recent NBC News poll found 76% of Americans have major or moderate concerns about whether President Biden has the necessary mental and physical health to be able to lead the country for another 4 years. So the question begs, does Joe Biden need to sit a cognitive exam to prove he is sound of mind, the same way Donald Trump had to in 2018? Now, if this is content you enjoy, don't forget to like and subscribe to our Talk TV.
We're going to go forward just a little bit here.
Poignant, which is that age is not just a number. My father, who is slightly older than Joe Biden, is completely cognitively intact, and probably even more so than I am for my morning cup of coffee so much. But as you see somebody age and certainly display certain characteristics, word finding issues, maybe some memory issues, then that does become a concern, especially if there's a repetitive pattern. Now, obviously, I haven't examined Joe Biden. He's not a patient of mine, so it's hard for me to really create or extrapolate that much of a cognitive.
All right, I don't want to make this too long. So the bottom line with this guy is he's a neurosurgeon, and he's like, yeah, I have concerns about President Biden. He's not my patient, but just observing what we're all observing, something is seriously wrong right here, and we all need to be aware of it. And this is not something that's new. As you are aware, this has been concerns with Joe Biden for quite some time. Here's a interview he did in 2022 with 60 Minutes. And I want you we're just going to listen to a snippet of this right here. Listen to the difference he was 2 or 3 years ago compared to what he is right now. I think you're going to find this quite striking, because the way he acts in this interview versus the way he talks now, at least in my opinion, is stark. There's a huge difference. So let's take a quick peek and let me know what you think.
What can you do better and faster?
Well, first of all, let's put this in perspective. Inflation rate month to month was just an inch, hardly at all.
You're not.
Have you noticed
arguing
his
that 8.3 is good news?
No, I'm not saying.
Look at his face. His face looks different. Right now, his face looks like he's not home. Looks like he's lost. It just doesn't look right. Folks, tell me. I know I'm nuts myself, but I admit it. Am I wrong? The way he looks, the way he talks. So this is supposed to be from 2022. So you got 2 years, 3 years at best, depending on exactly when this was filmed. I mean, come on.
Saying it is good news, but it was 8.2 or 8.2 before. I mean, it's not. Maybe I can make it sound like all of a sudden, my God, it went to 8.2%. It's
the highest inflation rate, Mr. President, in 40 years.
I got that, but guess what we are? We're in a position where,
look, folks, it's just completely different. The man here is clearly lucid. He's making direct eye contact. He's bantering back and forth. He's engaging. It's just a different Joe Biden at this particular time period than what there is now. To me, it's just stark. I want to take one look at one more thing before I go into the diagnosis, and we'll just go ahead and get to the meat. You get these idiots, these clowns on these different platforms. This guy here that I'm going to show you briefly, it just kind of cracks me up, but this is the kind of nonsense that we're all fed day in and day out. This is a guy on the X platform. I think this will come through the way I want to. Listen to this dork. This guy is a complete idiot. He's hammering MAGA and about people making comments about President Joe Biden. So we're just going to listen to a few seconds of this here.
Guys, I'm getting so sick of the far right with their nonsense about Joe Biden. He can't walk. He's in the bunker. He's got Alzheimer's. Do we remember a president named FDR? Does that ring a bell? Well, guess what? FDR was confined to a wheelchair. He ended the Great Depression. He created Social Security. Last I remember, he also won World War II. So all of you morons out there that are complaining about Joe Biden, he's in the bunker, he has Alzheimer's, because don't get me wrong, I'm sure all of you have medical degrees and you've all given Joe Biden a personal physical. FDR proved that he can do it all confined to a wheelchair.
Yeah, this guy, take a look at that face, folks. I want you to remember that face. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the face of an idiot, the face of a complete moron. First of all, pushing the limits. I guess that's his handle on the X platform. There is a vast difference between someone with a physical handicap of being confined to a wheelchair and somebody who has the actual mental decline inside of their brain on a neurological level. It may be one thing if I couldn't walk, but it's a completely different thing for a president when a president cannot even have proper thoughts, cannot acknowledge another person, cannot walk correctly, wanders off, not able to find his way off stage. I mean, who does this guy think he's kidding? What a complete idiot. All right. Now, I want to get into the meat of exactly what I think is going on. And I have to tell you, obviously, the obvious. I'm not a doctor, but I'm going to play one on YouTube. All right. So we're going to take a quick peek at this. So what I did is I went ahead. You know, I love that Chat GPT. I love this AI and some of this other stuff that we have going on nowadays. And obviously, Chat GPT is not the most smartest thing in the entire world. It can be wrong, whatever, but I do believe it's worth discussing this with them, and that's exactly what I want to do at this time. So let's go ahead and let's take a quick peek. I asked Chat GPT, whatever, I said, hey, listen, I want you to give me a straight up assessment of what's going on here with the president. And I told it, I said, hey, listen, all right, here we go. We got a better screen this way. I need you. This is what I told it in this box here in the middle. I need you to help me do some speculating. I didn't want to say it pertains to President Joe Biden, because anything to do with somebody that's a particular person, it basically will start locking up and it just won't cooperate with you. But I asked, I said, hey, listen, I'm thinking of a hypothetical man that is 81 years of age, and this 81-year-old man who is white, lives in the United States, is having bizarre episodes of suddenly freezing up and kind of looking like he's lost. And at times, the same person seems to be extremely confused. What kind of diseases or disease processes would these symptoms be indicative of? If you need me to answer additional questions in order to form hypothetical responses, please let me know. And it responded accordingly. The symptoms you're describing for an 81-year-old white man in the United States, episodes of suddenly freezing up, looking lost, experiencing extreme confusion, could be indicative of several medical conditions. Here are some of the possibilities. And the number one thing it came up with was Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and then a few other ones that it listed here. Okay. And I think that's kind of obvious. However, I went ahead and I said, because I wanted to zoom in a little bit more on this. I said, okay, I definitely want to narrow this down. I would say this hypothetical situation involves a person who has been exhibiting symptoms of walking away and confusion trying to get off the stage. And additionally, the person looks often like they're frozen. The symptoms can come and go because occasionally they do, but it is clear when you look at the person, most of the time, they seem elderly. They seem not able to answer questions. Duration and frequency would be very random, and it seems to go away when another person helps them or gives them redirection. The individual does not have any known ongoing medical history, because that's true. We don't know of any ongoing medical history with President Biden. And of course, we're just speculating. What would you think it is on? I think I messed my words up here, but I'm asking, what do you think is the most likely cause given this set of symptoms? All right, so the AI chat GPT responds, given the additional details you provided, the most likely causes for the hypothetical 81-year-old man experiencing episodes of freezing, confusion, and needing redirection could be Parkinson's disease and what they call Lewy body dementia. Now, Parkinson's disease, this condition often involves episodes of freezing, especially when trying to initiate movement or navigating obstacles. Now, this other one here, I've never heard of this, but it's called Lewy body dementia. This is another strong possibility. It is characterized by fluctuating cognitive impairment, which aligns with the symptoms of coming and going. Individuals with Lewy body dementia can experience episodes of confusion, hallucinations, and movement difficulties that resemble Parkinson's disease. I watched another video pertaining to this Lewy body dementia, and the person that made the video essentially said this is the most common type of dementia here in America, and it is probably the least dementia that people have ever heard of. It's kind of weird. I don't think I've heard of it, and yet it's very common. So let's continue, because I've answered some other questions. It goes on and says, why Lewy body dementia? Number one, the fluctuating symptoms, the episodes of confusion and freezing coming and going, which is a hallmark of Lewy body dementia. This variability distinguishes it from other types of dementia. Movement issues, the freezing and difficulty with movement can resemble Parkinson's. It's often confused with Parkinson's disease. All right, so keep that in mind, which is common in Lewy body dementia. Elderly appearance, the symptoms align with an elderly individual's cognitive and motor function decline. Remember, we discussed earlier that President Biden simply has an appearance as an elderly person. If you remember from the HER report, and trust me, there's much more to come during another live stream pertaining to the HER report. I plan on going over that extensively with y'all, because I think it's important that we talk about these things. Remember, this special prosecutor would not indict and bring charges against President Biden because, in his words, and of course I'm paraphrasing, he said he presented himself as a kind, nice, old man, an elderly man, and there is no reason to prosecute somebody that clearly a jury is going to have extreme sympathy for. He is an elderly, sick individual, and that's just the bottom line. That was according to what's called the HER report. He goes on, while this is a speculative scenario, consulting with a healthcare professional. All right, well, they always say that. So I continue on. Just to be clear, I would say that most of the time the individual does look like he is elderly, and generally over the course of an hour, you can definitely see this individual has some type of odd movement. Generally, someone will help them try to get back on track, so to speak. I am thinking it might be number one or number two above, and you would agree that if you have any other questions, let me know. Is essentially what I'm asking. So the response from Chat GPT was, given the additional clarification, it does seem that the most likely conditions are either Parkinson's disease or Lewy body dementia. Now, we're almost done with this particular discussion with the chat. I'm of the opinion, folks, that he has this Lewy body dementia. So continue to keep that in mind as we go through this. Parkinson's disease, the tremors, it goes, you are correct that one of the hallmark symptoms of Parkinson's disease is a resting tremor, often described as pule rolling. which typically starts on one side of the body. However, not everyone with Parkinson's experiences tremors. And of course, with President Joe Biden, I have not noticed any tremors. If you have, please let me know. The freezing episodes, confusion, and need for redirection could be indicative of Parkinson's disease dementia, what's called PDD, which occurs in the later stages of Parkinson's disease. Motor symptoms, freezing of gait, which is walking, rigidity, and bradykinesia, slowness of movement. And of course, President Biden definitely has that. Are other motor symptoms that often occur. These symptoms can lead to the appearance of being stuck or frozen, especially in a complex or crowded environment like a stage. Now, Lewy body dementia, fluctuating cognition. Lewy body dementia is characterized by the marked fluctuations in attention and alertness, which align well with the described episodes of confusion and freezing. These cognitive fluctuations can cause individuals to appear lost or confused suddenly. Boom, right? And it says this Parkinsonia symptoms. People, I think this is important, this point here. People with Lewy body dementia often develop Parkinson motor symptoms, including rigidity, the bradykinesia, and tremors. These motor symptoms are similar to those seen in Parkinson's disease, which can cause episodes of freezing. Other symptoms, Lewy body dementia can also include visual hallucinations and severe sensitivity to antipsychotic medication, which are less common in Parkinson's disease. So it's going through and it's given me, what's for given. And the conclusion is as follows. Given the described symptoms, it seems the Lewy body dementia might be a slightly better fit due to the significant fluctuations in cognitive and motor symptoms, which include freezing and confusion. However, Parkinson's disease with associated dementia, the PDD we talked about, is also a strong possibility, especially if the individual shows clear Parkinsonian motor symptoms without the significant day-to-day cognitive fluctuation typical of Lewy body dementia. And I think that is exactly describing President Joe Biden. He definitely has the cognitive fluctuation that you would see in a Lewy body dementia. So I went on, I said, if someone wanted to hide their disease, at least temporarily, I'm talking about President Biden, of course, would they be able to do so by taking medications like Provigil or Ritalin or some other type of medications? And the answer from ChatGPT was yes, it would work like that. Ritalin, used primarily for ADHD and narcolepsy. It obviously focuses and helps attention. All right. And then what I was talking about earlier, the Provigil, I believe the generic, actually, I think it's called Monofil, and the name it's sold under is called Provigil. It's used to treat narcolepsy and other sleep disorders by promoting wakefulness. Just as a side programming note, if you ever have trouble with waking up or staying focused, check in to this Monofil. This is really good stuff. I've heard great things about it, and there's loads of stuff on the internet, specifically YouTube, pertaining to this particular drug. So it goes into a few other things and what you can do to deal with the symptoms that you're having. I said, if another symptom is that the person appears to get angrier quicker, what disease would that most likely lean to? And boom, Lewy body dementia. Irritability and mood swings. Lewy body dementia often includes significant mood challenges, including increased irritability and rapid changes in emotion. This is consistent with the fluctuating nature of the disease, which can cause abrupt changes in behavior and emotional state. So I think that was pretty good. I mean, I think it did a good job answering. I said, for this hypothetical patient, there is 81-year-old white male living in the United States. I'm thinking that when this person goes out in public, they are probably on some type of medication or combination of medications. We talked about that a minute ago, so they could basically hide their disease, so to speak. And of course, it confirmed what I just said. There's a number of medications, individually or in combination, that doctors typically use in this particular situation. Now, finally, I said, what is the prognosis for an individual with this disease? What is the likelihood that this individual would live to reach 86 years of age? And this is important. This guy's the president of the United States. If he wins re-election, he'll be serving another 4 years if he could live through that. So here's what it said right here, and I think this is pretty good right here on the life expectancy. Average life expectancy. The average life expectancy for someone diagnosed with LBD, we're talking about that Lewy, let me read it correctly here, that Lewy body dementia, the LBD, is generally reported to be between 5 and 8 years from the onset of the symptoms. So that's what I want to finish talking about here. If it's 5 to 8 years from the onset of symptoms, and we're just going to pretend that he has this LBD, this Lewy disease that we've been talking about. Well, clearly 2 to 3 years ago, he looked much better. I don't know if you can say that it started back then. Now, he was having trouble last year. I think that's very, very clear. So why don't we just give it the benefit of the doubt? Let's say it probably started in force like January 2023. So that's year number 1. Well, the average lifespan, as we just read, the average is 5 to 8 years. Now, that doesn't mean a person can be president of the United States that long. What it means is they live that long. So chances of making it 5 to 8 years. And if it started last year, this would be year number 2. And then you add another 4 years on top of that. That is well beyond the lower expected range of living. It doesn't mean that an individual could function as president of the United States. What do y'all think about that? That is just unbelievable. You know, I don't know. I'm just taking a quick peek through the comments here. Welcome, American Nana and Sapphire Ridge, my friend. Thanks for being here. Zach, appreciate you. I think that y'all's comments are right on the money. Everyone's got some, we got a nice little lively discussion right here. Pamela, thanks for joining us today, too. I do appreciate everybody being in the conversation. And Zach, you're right. I don't see how it can even be a discussion that it'll run. Yeah, I don't get it either. But that's what they got here. That's what they got here. Yeah, my friend Sapphire. Yeah, okay, good. Well, folks, you need, if you haven't done so already, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button because it helps the algorithm push this through. Obviously, I need you to subscribe, help the channel continue to grow. I am always pleased and happy when you take time to hear what I have to say. It is important that we all do our job this year, folks. This is a very consequential election. It's not hyperbole to say, hey, this is the most important election in our lifetime. This election really counts, really matters. We may be on the brink of World War III. Let's be honest about it. You have a situation with Russia and China and North Korea. You have Israel being attacked seemingly from all sides. You have Europe at war again. You have the nuclear power of Russia all PO'd over this NATO thing. I'll make a video on this at another time. It's a very dangerous situation in our country, and we need to be aware of this, and we need to make sure we all get out and vote. If you have a family member, a friend, anyone suffering from the dreaded disease of indoctrination, please send them, share this video with them so at least they can hear the truth, at least the truth as far as I see it, and they can make up their own mind about how they vote and who they vote for from this day forward. Folks, I appreciate each and every one of you joining me today. I always say, keep that mind free, never give up. Until next time, my friends, I am J.R. Dukes.